What if I told you that some of the most valuable plants you could grow on your land right now look suspicious to every neighbor who walks past your fence? Plants our grandparents grew freely in their kitchen gardens and backfields. Plants that paid for homesteads and stocked country stores for generations until somewhere along the way, we forgot how to look at what we're looking at. Every plant on this list is 100% legal to grow in this country, and every single one carries a real market opportunity, either already generating serious money for growers who know about it, or expanding fast enough that early movers will look back and understand exactly what they walked into. Stick around, because number 6 has been used ceremonially for 3,000 years across the Pacific Islands, and the industry built around it is expanding faster than the supply can keep up, and number 12 is so misunderstood that California made it their official state flower, and people still call 911 about it. Let's get into it. Number 1. Hemp. Cannabis sativa L. The legal twin that built a billion-dollar industry. There is no honest conversation about legal plants that look suspicious without beginning here. Cannabis sativa L. Industrial hemp. It looks exactly like marijuana because botanically it is the same species. The difference that matters, the only difference that has ever mattered legally, is that industrial hemp contains less than 0.3% THC by dry weight. You could not get high from industrial hemp if you tried, but it looks identical to something you could. And that visual fact shaped American agricultural policy for 80 years. Colonial farmers were required by law to grow it. Virginia, Massachusetts, and Connecticut all had hemp cultivation mandates in the 17th century. The fiber was essential to the young nation's rope, sailcloth, and clothing production. The 1937 Marijuana Tax Act ended it overnight, lumping a practical industrial crop with its psychoactive cousin. The 2018 Farm Bill brought it back. The market that was waiting is extraordinary. The global hemp industry exceeded $6 billion in 2022 and is projected to reach $17 billion by 2030. Seed hemp fiber for automotive composites. Hemp seed, with its near-perfect omega fatty acid ratio, 3 separate markets. All undersupplied domestically, all paying premiums that commodity crops cannot match. Think of it as the crop that was taken away for 80 years and is finally coming back home. Number 2, hops. Humulus lupulus cannabis's botanical cousin fueling a craft revolution. Hemp and hops are members of the same plant family, Cannabaceae. Genuine botanical relatives. A mature hop vine produces the same distinctive palmate leaf shape, the same branching structure, a visual impression that gets people reaching for their phones in regions where the plant is unfamiliar. What it actually is the plant that flavors every beer produced in America. From industrial lager to the craft IPA at the brewery that opened downtown last spring, all of it. This climbing vine is essential to a $28 billion industry, and the American craft brewing movement has created regional demand for hops that the existing Pacific Northwest supply chain cannot satisfy. Our grandparents grew hops for brewing, yes, but also for medicine. The dried cones were stuffed into sleep pillows for insomnia. Hop tea was standard frontier treatment for nervous restlessness. Fresh cones applied as a poultice addressed muscle aches. The plant was woven into everyday American health before commercial brewing made us forget half of what it was for. Locally sourced hops command premiums that commodity hops from Yakima cannot match. Wet hops, available only to breweries within driving distance of harvest, are immune to commodity pricing entirely. A well-maintained hop yard produces for 20 years. Think of it as the vine your great-grandmother grew along the back fence for both her medicine cabinet and her root cellar. She knew exactly what she had. Number 3, Canaf hibiscus cannabinus, the cannabis look-alike. Nobody has heard of. Most people have never heard of this plant. Even specialty crop growers have never heard of it. And in that gap between known and unknown is one of the most interesting agricultural opportunities. In American agriculture right now, Hibiscus cannabinus canaf. The Latin species name says it plainly, meaning resembling cannabis it does. 12 to 14 feet tall in a single growing season. Palmate leaves. Same branching structure. A hibiscus related to okra that looks like cannabis and is legal everywhere in the United States with 0 federal licensing and 0 regulatory complexity. Ancient Egyptian records reference canaf cultivation for fiber. Traditional healers in West Africa used the leaves as a vegetable and the seeds as edible oil. The fiber from the stalks competes with fiberglass in composite material applications. Forge? Mercedes-Benz and BMW have incorporated canaf fiber composites into vehicle components as part of their sustainable materials programs. The domestic supply chain for canaf fiber is essentially undeveloped. Companies that want it are actively searching for domestic suppliers and struggling to find them. That is not a gap in the market. That is the market sitting open. Think of it as the hemp of the subtropics, with all the demand of a forgotten industrial fiber crop and none of the regulatory complexity. Number 4. Ornamental poppy Papaver somniferum, the controversial flower that's legal to grow. This one requires nuance, and understanding the nuance is exactly where the opportunity lives. Papaver somniferum, the opium poppy. It appears in ancient Sumerian texts, Egyptian medicine, Roman pharmacology. Every major culture that encountered it found use for it, pain relief, nutrition, ceremony. And in the United States today, growing it as an ornamental flowering plant is legal in all 50 states. It is sold in mainstream seed catalogs. Martha Stewart has featured it. Sunset Magazine has published planting guides. What is illegal is the intentional extraction of latex from the seed pods. The plant itself, grown as a flower, is legal. The seed pods, those architectural globe shapes that develop after the petals fall, are among the most sought-after dried botanical elements in the American floral industry. Florists, event designers, dried botanical subscription boxers, and natural home decor brands all want them and cannot get enough domestic supply. The fresh-cut flowers themselves, with their tissue-thin petals in shades of deep burgundy, lavender, salmon, and white, command some of the highest prices per stem of any cut flower during their brief season. Our great-grandmothers grew poppies in their cottage gardens because nature had placed something beautiful and useful there together. As it usually does, think of it as the flower that is older than civilization, more beautiful than almost anything in the garden, and more misunderstood in modern America than nearly any plant on this list. Number 5. California poppy is Schoziza californica, the state flower that triggers 911 cows. The California poppy is the official state flower of California. It grows wild across hillsides and roadsides, turning landscapes gold in spring. It is in every wildflower seed mix sold in Western garden centers. And people call 911 about it regularly because Schoziza californica, with its feathery blue-green leaves, nodding cup-shaped flowers, poppy-like appearance, gets misidentified as the opium poppy and reported to law enforcement. It contains 0 opiate alkaloids. 0, its own alkaloids. California G. Eschkolzin and others produce mild sedative and anxiolytic effects through mechanisms completely unrelated to opioids. Legal to grow, harvest, and sell in all 50 states. The Costanoan and other California native nations used it as a gentle pain reliever and sleep aid, including 4 restless children. The Zenovi eclectic physicians incorporated it as a mild nervine appropriate for sensitive individuals. Today, it appears in dozens of commercial sleep and stress formulas. The dried herb sells consistently in the bulk market, and demand for organically cultivated domestic supply is real and growing. As a crop, it is nearly effortless, drought-tolerant, poor soil adapted, self-seeding, long harvest season. Think of it as the plant California put on its flag because its grandparents knew exactly what they had. Number 6. Cava pipa methisticum. 3,000 years of ceremony, building America's next beverage market picture a Tuesday evening. You walk into what looks like a coffee shop. Comfortable chairs, quiet music, people talking in small groups, all of them genuinely at ease. They're drinking something earthy from wooden bowls. Nobody is drinking alcohol. Piper Mashisikun Kava, native to Fiji, Vanuatu, Tonga, and Hawaii, consumed ceremonially and socially for over 3,000 years. The root, ground, and strained into water produces mild relaxation and social ease, without impairment, without hangover, without addictive potential. 0 alcohol. Completely legal everywhere in the United States. In Hawaii, kava kaldawa has been used since the first Polynesian settlement. Kahuna healers prepared it for ceremony, for healing, and for community conflict resolution, requiring all parties to sit in calm, open presence together. American kava bars grew from essentially 0 to over 100 brick-and-mortar locations between 2015 and 2023. The Sober Curious movement is discovering a social drinking culture that delivers relaxation without health consequences. Dried kava root sells for $40 to $100 per kilogram. Domestic cultivation is in its infancy. Think of it as a 3,000-year-old tradition that American culture is finally ready for. Number 7. Wild Daga leonatus lenaris, the lion's tail with an unfortunate nickname. The name is the whole story. Really? Daga is South African slang for cannabis. And when people see the word on a seed packet or nursery label, they stop reading. They do not read the rest, that this is Leonardus linearis, the lion's tail plant, native to sub-Saharan Africa, a member of the mint family with no chemical relationship to cannabis whatsoever. What they should read is that this is a tall, striking ornamental, perennial producing spectacular wild clusters of deep orange flowers on squared stems, used in South African traditional medicine as a mild analgesic and anti-inflammatory, and now finding a market in the American herbal smoking blend industry as a legal, pleasant-flavored herb that provides gentle relaxation without any scheduled compounds. Legal everywhere in the United States. Striking in the garden, sought after in the emerging herbal smoking alternative market. Traditional Zulu and Safo healers used wild daga for pain, fever, and skin conditions. The leaves and flowers were smoked or prepared as tea. The plant's lianorine content produces mild calming effects that have been documented in modern research. Think of it as the plant whose name costed a fair introduction for decades. Read the rest of the label. It's worth it. Number 8. Passion flower. Passiflora incarnata, the alien-looking native with a century of medical history. Nothing about this flower looks like it belongs in North America. The intricate, layered structure, fringed corona, 5 sepals, 5 petals. The stigmas and stamens arranged in geometric perfection looks like it was designed by someone with no interest in subtlety. It looks exotic. It looks strange. It looks 2 eyes unfamiliar with it, like something that probably shouldn't be growing in the backyard. Passiflora incarnata mapap, native to the American Southeast, found wild from Virginia to Texas. Used by the Cherokee for anxiety, insomnia, and hard-to-please children. Listed in the U.S. National Formulary from 1916 to 1936, which means it was an accepted pharmaceutical standard for 20 years before being pushed out by the emerging synthetic drug industry. Clinical research published in peer-reviewed journals has confirmed its traditional uses. A 2011 trial in phytotherapy research found passion flower extract comparable to oxazepam, a benzodiazepine, for generalized anxiety disorder with fewer side effects. Multiple studies have confirmed sleep-improving effects. The supplement market for passion flower is substantial and growing. The dried aerial parts sell consistently in bulk. The market for verified organically grown domestic passion flower aerial parts is undersupplied. Think of it as the plant that looks like something from another planet and grows wild in the American Southeast. Our ancestors knew exactly what they had in it. We're at the halfway point. If you've made it this far, hit that like button. It helps this video reach the farmers and homesteaders who need to see it. Subscribe for new content every week. Let's keep going. Number 9. Wormwood Artemisia absinthium. The absinthium whose reputation finally caught up to the truth. Wormwood built a mythology that took over a century to dismantle. Artemisia absinthium, the primary botanical ingredient in absinthe, banned across Europe and America in the early 20th century amid claims that thujone caused hallucinations and madness. Vincent van Gogh drank it. Ernest Hemingway wrote about it. Modern research has shown definitively that traditional absinthe contained thujone concentrations far too low to produce any psychoactive effect beyond ordinary alcohol. The ban was lifted in the United States in 2007, and the craft distilling industry that emerged has been exploring absinthe-adjacent spirits ever since, creating demand for the botanical ingredients that the pre-prohibition era would have recognized immediately. Beyond spirits, wormwood is a primary ingredient in traditional digestive bitters. The American craft cocktail revival has made bitters fashionable again, and the botanicals that go into them are in active demand from small batch producers. Traditional European herbalists used wormwood as a bitter digestive tonic, fever reducer, and antiparasitic, all validated by modern research on its sesquiterpene. Think of it as the herb that spent a century in exile for a crime it didn't commit. It's been exonerated. The market noticed. Number 10. Blue Lotus Nymphea caerulea, Egypt's sacred flower in the modern wellness market. Every ancient Egyptian ceremonial scene painted on temple walls for 4,000 years includes this flower. Nymphea caerulea, the blue lotus of the Nile. A water lily with pale blue petals and a golden center, depicted in the hands of gods and pharaohs, floating in the pools of sacred gardens. Pressed into the wine consumed at royal celebrations, where its mild, euphoric, and relaxing effects were understood and deliberately sought. Ancient Egyptian texts describe blue lotus preparations for celebration, meditation, and healing. The plant's alkaloids, nuciferine and aporphine, have demonstrated mild dopaminergic and serotonergic effects in modern research. The dried flowers are legal to purchase, sell, and cultivate in the United States. The wellness market has discovered them enthusiastically. Blue lotus tea, blue lotus tinctures, and blue lotus-infused products have found a loyal following among consumers interested in gentle mood support and the experience of something genuinely ancient. Cultivation requires a water garden or container pond. The plant grows in shallow water in full sun, producing flowers across a long summer season. The flowers, harvested fresh and dried carefully, retain their color and their alkaloid content for extended shelf life. The market for quality dried blue lotus flower is real, growing, and mostly supplied by international importers. Think of it as 4,000 years of Egyptian wisdom surfacing in the American wellness market. Right now, waiting for someone to grow it domestically and meet the demand. Number 11, Menos butterfly pea. Flower Clitoria tegnata, the color-changing flower that conquered the food industry. Two things about this plant create initial confusion. The name, which contains a word that stops some people mid-sentence, and the color, which is so intensely, chemically vivid that products made from it look artificially dyed when they are not. Clitoria ternatea butterfly pea flower, a twining vine native to Southeast Asia, producing small, deep blue flowers whose color is entirely natural and entirely extraordinary. Steep the dried flowers in hot water, and the liquid turns indigo. Add lemon juice, anything acidic, and it shifts through purple to pink to magenta in real time. The color-changing property has made it one of the most visually dramatic natural food dyes available anywhere. The food industry noticed butterfly pea flower has exploded in the premium beverage, craft cocktail, specialty tea, and natural food coloring markets. Blue and purple are among the most difficult natural food colors to achieve. Synthetic blue food dyes have faced regulatory scrutiny for years, and the industry has been actively looking for stable natural alternatives. Butterfly pea flower provides exactly that. Traditional Thai and Malay medicine used it for hair care, eye conditions, and as a mild no. Modern research has identified anthocyanin content comparable to blueberry, with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties consistent with traditional use. As a crop, it grows aggressively in warm climates and greenhouses. The flowers are harvested and dried, and the demand from food and beverage manufacturers, craft tea brands, and the specialty cocktail industry is growing faster than domestic supply. Think of it as the flower that makes people gasp when their drink changes color, and then they ask where they can get more. Number 12, Why lettuce lactuca virosa te opium lettuce? With a name it doesn't deserve, it is called opium lettuce. By herbalists, by the internet, by people who sell it as a supplement, and by the people who write alarmed articles about whether it should be legal. It should be legal, and it is everywhere in the United States because lactuca virosa contains no opiate compounds. None. The milky latex that bleeds from cut stems contains lactones with mild sedative and analgesic effects that operate through mechanisms entirely separate from opioid pharmacology. The name is dramatic. The chemistry is not. Traditional European herbal medicine used wild lettuce from the medieval period onward as a gentle sedative, a cough suppressant, and a mild pain reliever for headaches and joint pain. Victorian herbalists called it poor man's opium, not because it chemically resembled opium, but because it was the accessible option for people who couldn't afford the pharmaceutical alternative. The name stuck, the misunderstanding compounded. The modern supplement market for wild lettuce is significant precisely because of that name. The combination of dramatic folk reputation, genuine mild sedative effect, and complete legal status makes it one of the more interesting herbs in the sleep and pain support category. The bulk dried herb, wild lettuce tinctures, and wild lettuce extract products all sell consistently. Think of it as the herb that took a nickname it never earned and is still working quietly and effectively for the people who know the difference. Number 13, Valeriana officinellus, the sleep herb that smells like it has something to hide. Let's be direct about this. Valerian root smells terrible. Valeriana officin. The root, when dried and processed, produces a fragrance from the isovaleric acid it contains that most people describe in terms they don't use in polite conversation. Neighbors have investigated. Postal workers have expressed concern about packages. The smell is the first thing people notice, and the reason some of them assume something illegal is being produced nearby. The smell is medicine. Isovaleric acid and related valerianic acid compounds are the same family of molecules that interact with GABA receptors, the target of benzodiazepine drugs, without the dependence potential, morning impairment, or withdrawal effects associated with pharmaceutical sedatives. Valerian is the #1 selling herbal sleep supplement in the United States. Multiple randomized controlled trials have confirmed its sleep-improving effects. A 2006 systematic review in the American Journal of Medicine analyzed 16 clinical trials and found consistent evidence of improved sleep quality. European herbalists from the medieval period onward used valerian for anxiety and insomnia so consistently that it was called all. American eclectic physicians of the 19th century relied on it heavily. The plant went nowhere. It just kept growing in damp meadows, smelling like itself, working exactly as it always has. Think of it as the herb that built its reputation in spite of its aroma, and is now the best-selling herbal sleep supplement in the country because of what's underneath the smell. Number 14. Blue Vervain Verbena astatate, Native American nervine nobody, is growing Verbena astata and blue vervain, a tall Native American perennial of wet meadows and stream banks, producing slender spikes of tiny violet-blue flowers on branched stems in mid to late summer. Striking in the landscape, essential in the garden for pollinators, and holding one of the most consistent historical reputations in North American herbalism for the specific kind of exhaustion and anxiety that traditional practitioners describe as being wound too tight. Nachivi. American nations of the eastern woodlands used blue vervain extensively. The Iroquois for fever and nervous conditions, the Cherokee for stress and tension-related illness. These 19th century eclectic physicians called it a primary nervine for the type of person who can't switch off, holds tension in the jaw and shoulders and chest, and lies awake despite genuine exhaustion. Modern herbal medicine validates that application. The plant's iridoid glycosides have demonstrated mild sedative and anti-anxiety effects in research models. The supplement market for verified, high-quality blue vervain is genuinely undersupplied. Most commercial blue vervain is still wild harvested, and the botanical sourcing community actively seeks domestic cultivated supply. The commercial cultivation opportunity exists precisely because almost nobody has entered this market yet. Low competition, established demand, native species easy to grow in appropriate moist conditions. Think of it as the herb that is perfectly described by the people who need it most. Those who are wound too tight to remember to look for the thing that would help them unwind. Number 15, skullcap scutularia. Lateriflora, the adulteration crisis. That created a premium market. Here's a market opportunity created not by demand outpacing supply, but by supply failing quality. Escutelaria, Lateriflora, American skullcap, a modest native perennial of shaded eastern woodland edges with small blue-violet flowers and toothed oval leaves, used by the Iroquois and Cherokee for nervous conditions. Prescribed by eclectic physicians as one of their most reliable anxiolytics for anxiety, trembling, and nervous exhaustion. Validated by modern research, a 2014 study confirms significant anxiety reduction with no sedation or cognitive impairment. The Crisis American skullcap is one of the most adulterated herbs in the commercial supply chain. The American Herbal Products Association has documented widespread substitution of with germander, a different plant with different chemistry and potential liver toxicity concerns. The adulteration exists because wild harvest supply hasn't kept pace with demand, and unscrupulous suppliers fill the gap with lookalike species. The result: buyers who care about quality, the supplement companies, the clinical herbalists, the practitioners who depend on what's actually in the bottle, are paying significant premiums for verified, cultivated, tested Scutularia lateriflora from domestic sources they can trace. The premium for clean product isn't a wish. It's an active purchasing reality for anyone growing this plant with proper documentation and quality testing. The plant grows easily in partial shade in moist, rich soil. It asks for conditions similar to what it prefers in the wild and rewards patient cultivation, with a product that the market is desperately short of. Think of it as the plant whose absence in the market is itself the message. The market is calling, the supply chain is broken, and the grower who answers that call with clean, verified product is filling a gap that has been widening for years. Outro 15 plants. Some of them look like something you'd see in a law enforcement news story. Some carry names that raise eyebrows. Some have cultural histories so tangled with misunderstanding that the stigma followed them into IRAs where the original concerns no longer apply. And every single one of them is legal. And every single one has a market. Here's the deeper truth underneath all of it. Our grandparents didn't need a video like this. They already knew these plants. Hemp and hops were in the fields. Passion flower and skullcap were in the medicine tin. Valerian was in the root cellar. Poppies were in the cottage garden. These weren't exotic or suspicious. They were every day. They were known. What happened is that we replaced plant knowledge with product knowledge. Instead of knowing the plant, we learned the brand. And in the process, we handed off one of the oldest forms of human knowledge to industries that had every reason to keep us from remembering. The plants didn't change. The knowledge didn't disappear. It went dormant, and it is waking back up, plant by plant, in the hands of every grower who reads the research and walks back out to the field with a different question than the one they walked out with before. Look closer, learn the name, and ask yourself whether what looks like a problem might actually be the opportunity your land has been offering you all along. Drop a comment below which plant surprised you most. Which one are you going to look into this week? Hit that like button if this changed the way you see the plant world. Subscribe for more forgotten knowledge every week. I am the Earth Keeper, and I'll see you in the field.